G'day, I'm Stephen Coulter. This is Bernard Wright. We're co-founders of Controlabill. As Eric said, I'm from Australia. When I'm back home, I like nothing more than ocean swimming, where I'm also a surf lifesaver. So I'd love to get out to Alcatraz while I'm here and swim in from there, but I'm not going to have time, unfortunately. But maybe next time. But think about how much time it takes you to manage your billers and pay your bills each month. It takes an enormous amount of time. You guys are switched on and probably more technology savvy than most of Americans out there. And if it takes you 3 or 4 hours a month, how long is it taking the average American? And even with that time, it's still not working. There's $20 billion a year that Americans pay in credit card late payment fees, let alone late payment fees for other bills that are paid late. There's an enormous cost to the consumer. If you think about it, in America, there are 54 billion household payments made each year. 54 billion. They require about 5 billion biller relationships to be managed. And there are around about 1.5 billion of those get changed each year. They get changed because you change bank accounts, you move address, you change provider. And typically when you change one of those things, you have to fill in a form, one of these, and post it back to your biller, and they have to then process that. It's an enormous expense. We've found that billers around the world typically put a cost on that of $20 and upwards. We call those forms authorities, and we process them electronically through our web widget, which you can see here in Google. There are no competitors. We're defining, I guess, a new playing field, authority management as opposed to bill management. We don't actually see the bills or the payments. We manage the authorities which are upstream and control the payments. It's truly set and forget. We leverage the ACH and the direct payment billers within that system, so there's an enormous amount out there. It's truly set and forget. We have a patent that we lodged nearly 4 years ago, which our attorneys say should be approved this year. So let's have a look. Up here you can see a category summary. There's probably about 15, 16 billers in there. Each one of those represents an authority. And you can see we've got a dynamic budget. Whenever you add or take out a biller, the total adds up, the annual total. It then brings it back to a salary equivalent, in this case monthly. And if you like, we can smooth that payment directly across to your bill payment account so you can have all your bills paid for a fixed amount each month. Now what we've found is we can get a bit better deal from our wireless provider here. We're currently with AT&T, so we're going to cancel our payment authority with AT&T and set up a new one with Verizon Wireless. So we click on AT&T, we get given, one more time, I think we had to refresh the system. Go up to service providers, Bernard. And back to AT&T. We get 3 options here. We get an option to modify our service provider. That's if we want to update an account number, a bill number, an address, etc. Suspend the payment if we're having a dispute and we don't want to cancel them altogether. We just want to control our payments until we've sorted the matter out with the biller, or cancel the service provider. In this case, we're going to cancel the service provider, so click there. And that's it. It's that simple. Now, if you had a direct payment authority set up now, to cancel that, you're going to have to probably make 1 or more phone calls to your biller, get handballed around the place, and probably have to send them a letter and wait 4 weeks for it to be cancelled. We've done that there in a matter of seconds. We're now going to add Verizon Wireless as our new service provider. We click on Add Service Provider. And while Bernard starts typing with his thumbs, you guys, I'm sure, would be a lot quicker. We'll look for Verizon Wireless, and we're leveraging the ACH and all the billers that are in there. So there are thousands of them that you can do this way. It's not just bills. You can put loan repayments, auto repayments, mortgage repayments, allocations to savings and investment plans. The more things you have going through your Controlabill service, the better it is, the more controlled it is for the customer, and the more affordable it comes if you turn on the smoothing feature. So we're going to put in, Bernard, how much are we going to save? About $15 a month, so that's going to be $65 a month. And we hit next. We're leaving the home category from Wells Fargo account. And that's it. We've set up a new payment authority. No, we haven't. We'll go back once more time. You go through that, Bernard, and I'll go on ahead and keep the people occupied. So what we're actually doing is we're managing the information back to the billers. So when that goes through, we're actually collecting electronic authorities, and at the end of each day we batch those and send the electronic authority file back to each of the billers in the system. In this case, AT&T would have received a cancellation of an authority, and Verizon would have received a new authority to add to their system. If you read any of the forms that these guys put out now, they ask you to wait 28 to 45 days after sending your form in before they activate it. Here, it's done in seconds. It's activated overnight. That'll do, Bernard, make an expense. Hit next. So we have one hub that does all of your authorities. And if we go into this summary, we can see the update. So from a bank's perspective, they're our primary target market. If a bank takes our service, we don't want our brand out there. We would like banks to take our service and offer a true service to customers. Instead of you having to manage your 19 to 25 billers each month and go to each of them to manage the relationship, we give you one simple widget that allows you to brand it as a bank and provide a service to your customers and also to your billers. The moment it's costing them time and money to set up authorities, our pricing model for a biller is under $3 per authority compared to the $20 plus they're paying to set up an authority now. And it replaces the late payment fees from a bank. Instead of hitting your customers with a stick, you've got a carrot to offer them, which can more than replace the late payment fees that Americans are currently paying on their cards. It's also incredibly information rich. We're at the front end of the transactions, controlling the authorities. Customers are telling us about each biller as they're setting them up, often before they've received their first bill. It's also a spot where we can influence their choices either on that bill or on others. So if you're one of those companies that deals well with customer information, someone like, say, a Google, you'll appreciate the value of how much this is. And that's another path to market, we think, through those sorts of brands. As I said, it's an annuity model. We've done professional market research, and that's found that this proposition under a trusted brand will have customer take-up rates of 40 to 65%. We think that's actually ridiculous. I mean, if that's out by a factor of 2, though, it's still more than 20% of the market would use a service like this under a trusted brand. You've got 54 billion payments a year, 5 billion authorities, 1.5 billion changing. If there's a $2 fee in there, there's not a lot of high penetration you need to make this a very attractive financial model.